There is a lot you can do to give it a real boost.
Basically, additional energy that's burned after the exercise.
Muscle is a metabolically active tissue.
It can be a couple of days where you get this metabolic boost.
If your aim is to lose body fat, to tone up, to look your best, to feel best in your clothes, it's not necessary to see good results.
So the first thing we would recommend you do to boost your metabolism is... Hello and welcome to the Trinity Fit Over 40 podcast with me, Rob Burkhead.
And me, Ben Hughes. We are the co-founders of Trinity Transformation and creators of the Fit Over 40 method. And together with our world-class coaching team, we've helped more than 6,000 women over 40 to fit back into their favorite clothes over the past decade. For more information about what we do, go to www.fit40info.com.
So I think the first thing we really need to clarify is what is metabolism? Because a lot of people use this word, but it doesn't necessarily refer to the same thing. So usually what people are talking about when they say metabolism is what we actually call BMR, basal metabolic rate. And this is effectively the amount of calories, the amount of energy you burn just being alive before we factor in any movement, any exercise, anything else. And there's actually 4 ways we burn calories. So we have BMR, which is just what you burn just being alive. And this tends to be higher if you're a larger person because you have more cells, and smaller if you're a smaller person. And it's affected by a couple of other things we'll talk about today as well. Then we have thermic effect of food, TEOF or FF sometimes. So thermic effect of food, which is how many calories you burn eating. So actually when you have to digest food, that takes a lot of calories. It takes a lot of energy. If you eat more food or food that's more difficult to break down, so for example, protein, that burns quite a lot of calories. It actually burns quite a significant amount of calories throughout the day. So then we've got the amount of calories you burn from exercise. So this could be if you do a workout, if you do a lot of walking, things like that. And then the last thing we've got is NEAT, which is non-exercise activity thermogenesis. And these are the calories you burn when you're not exercising, but you're just generally moving about during the day. It could be fidgeting, it could be shifting around at your desk, it could be standing instead of sitting at a standing desk. It's not structured exercise, but you're still burning calories. It could be cleaning the house, it could be cooking food. And that also makes up for a lot of calories, often more than the calories burned during exercise. But the one we're going to focus on today is BMR. These are the amount of calories you burn just being alive. And there is some variation between people. And a lot of people assume their metabolism is fixed and it just slows down with age, but there are actually quite a few things you can do to change it. So we've got 5 different things you can do today, and the first couple are all linked to the type of exercise you choose. So the first thing we would recommend you do to boost your metabolism is actually to start lifting weights. And if you're already lifting weights, to make sure you're lifting heavy weights. A lot of people are lifting weights, but they're lifting very small, light weights. They're lifting 2 kilos or 5 kilos for all their muscle groups, and that can be too light. So the reason to lift weights and lift heavy weights, there's 2 reasons. First one is what we call the afterburn effect. So this is basically additional energy that's burned after the exercise. So whatever type of exercise you choose, you're going to burn calories during it, you're going to burn energy during it. But one of the real benefits of lifting weights is it has a much more powerful afterburn effect than cardio exercise. The technical term for this is EPOC, excess post-exercise oxygen consumption. So your body is kind of processing more oxygen after the workout, which burns more calories. And this is because the body has to recover from the workout. So it's got to replenish oxygen stores. It's got to replenish ATP, which is the energy stores that your muscle uses. It's got to replenish creatine stores, which is another energy system your muscles can use. It's got to remove lactic acid, that kind of burning sensation you can get when you're working out. It's got to repair muscle and more. And these processes require oxygen. So oxygen consumption rises after exercise. And that takes energy to do that. So additional calories are burned above your normal resting rate. So you've got to exercise. And the research shows that weightlifting, so lifting weights, the afterburn effect is pretty long. It's 15 to 38 hours. If you do a really tough workout, it can be a couple of days where you get this metabolic boost. And it can be about 9 to 11% boost for your metabolism. So if someone's basal metabolic rate, their BMR is 2000, they might burn an additional 200 calories over the course of the post-workout recovery period. So that's actually quite significant. It might not sound that big, but an extra 200 calories might make up for that extra chocolate bar or glass of wine you've eaten that you couldn't have got away with before, on top of the exercise calories burned. For cardio, the afterburn effect is much smaller. And there was a study conducted by the researchers at Flinders University where subjects were assigned one of two groups and did 30 minutes of running. One group ran continuously at 70% of VO2 max, so quite hard, but not super hard. And then another one did sprint intervals, working really, really hard, pushing themselves to over their VO2 max for 1 minute. So really, really hard. And the interval group had about 69 calories EPOC, and the continuous group had about half of that amount. And that is still, so even though the interval group burned quite a few calories in their EPOC, it's still about a third of the weightlifting example that we talked about above. So it's still significantly less, both forms of cardio. So if you're going to do some sort of strength training, that's going to give you a much better afterburn effect. And that's then going to effectively increase that metabolic rate for the next few days. So that's a fantastic way to increase your metabolism. But there's more benefits, right, Ben, than just that afterburn effect from lifting weights.
Exactly, yeah. And the second effect that you'll get from lifting weights is the metabolic effect of muscle. So muscle is a metabolically active tissue. Basically, it means it requires more energy to maintain than fat. So each pound of muscle that you gain, your RMR can increase by around 6 to 10 calories per day. So this varies from individual to individual based on individual factors like age, gender, and overall activity level. But if, for example, someone adds 5 pounds of muscle, they might burn an additional 30 to 50 calories per day, which translates to about 210 to 350 extra calories burned per week. And while this increase alone isn't huge, combined with the calorie burn from workouts needed to build and maintain muscle, it can significantly impact weight management and body composition over time. And additionally, more muscle improves your workout performance, allowing for more intense and more frequent exercise. So for example, if you are lifting weights, which will then increase your muscle mass, if you were to lift, let's just give it a very basic, I'm just going to randomly pull these numbers out of thin air, but if you were to lift 10 kilos, let's say that burns 50 calories. If you do the whole workout with if you do an exercise with 10 kilos, let's say you burn 50 calories. If you double the weight that you're lifting and now you can lift 20 kilos, you're going to burn 100 calories if you do the same amount of exercise. So the stronger you get, the more weight you can move, the more energy you're actually going to burn and going to use in those workouts. So the more weight training you do, the more that calorie burn effect actually will increase over time.
And just to clarify, RMR is another term for BMR. They're interchangeable, resting metabolic rate or basal metabolic rate. So those are two great things you can do. And then the next tip is kind of combined with that. So what you also want to do is to prioritize protein and eating enough, which a lot of people kind of do the opposite of, especially when it comes to trying to lose weight, which is usually why people want a faster metabolism. They often end up eating less and less and less, and this can cause problems. The reason for this is the body doesn't recover and build muscle or burn fat in the gym. Muscle building and fat burning all happen after and between your workouts, and they happen all the time. They don't happen when you're sleeping or when you're awake. Specifically, they happen during both of those and all the time. The way exercise works is the exercise, the gym, the lifting weights, whatever it is, that creates the stimulus for your body to change. But the actual change happens in all those hours after. But if you don't give your body enough of the raw materials to change, so not enough protein or not enough calories, the body cannot do anything with it. The body cannot actually recover and come back fitter and stronger from those workouts. The workouts will effectively do nothing. So without enough protein, the body can't build muscle, and that muscle is going to boost your metabolism. And without enough calories, the body also can't build muscle. And a good analogy for this is to imagine you're doing a renovation on your house, and going to the gym is creating this stimulus. So that's kind of like getting the motivation to do it, and then giving the builders the instructions of saying, we want this open plan kitchen put on the back of our house, for example. But if you don't give the builders any building materials, if you don't buy any building materials, they can't do anything. They can't make that open plan thing, even if they're really motivated to do it. So you've gone to the gym, you create that stimulus, but if you don't give your body any protein, it's kind of like giving the builders nothing to work with. They can't actually do anything. So the body will not change. It'll continue just to get older, weaker, flabbier and saggier and all of these things. And then the calories you take in is kind of like the energy the builders have. And if the builders have no energy, if the builders are exhausted, so they have to sleep all day, nothing is going to happen either. If you don't have any calories, your body will then shut down a lot of its processes and slow right down and not be able to rebuild and get that additional calorie burn that we've been talking about earlier. So to get the metabolism boosting effects of working out and of extra muscle, you actually need to eat enough protein and calories. You don't need to eat an excessive amount, but most people are not getting enough of either of these when they're trying to lose weight. Usually they end up starving themselves and accidentally not eating anywhere near enough protein as well. And then the last benefit of eating enough, and again, it's a sweet spot. It's not too much. It's not too little. There's a just right amount that works best for everybody. If you eat enough, you'll increase NEAT. You'll increase that non-exercise activity thermogenesis. So what will happen is things like your body will naturally fidget more, you'll get up more, you'll move around more at your desk. And this actually burns hundreds of calories throughout the day. It's what a lot of people call metabolism. They don't realize those people they say have a fast metabolism fidget a lot, they get up a lot, they can't sit still. And that comes from eating enough. And if you starve your body, it stops all of that stuff without you noticing. It's completely subconscious. It's completely involuntary, but it's a real nasty side effect of starvation diets that a lot of people don't talk about. If you want to have a fast metabolism, you need to eat enough. You don't need to overeat, but you need to make sure you're eating the right amount of both calories and protein.
Yeah, definitely. And I can definitely agree that I'm one of those people who constantly fidgets all the time. I really find it difficult to sit still, especially when we're actually recording these podcasts. It's hard for me to sit still. I'll end up swinging backwards and forwards on the chair. I'm like wanting to tap my foot. I want to like walk around the room. It's difficult. And that's probably because I'm never really trying to restrict those calories. I'm giving my body what it needs in terms of that protein and those calories. So it's got that extra calories to be able to do that. So the next thing to focus on is to reduce or stop doing long duration cardio. So any cardio over 30 minutes is catabolic. So what that means is it breaks down muscle. So this can contribute to a significant reduction in muscle. So you can lose about 1% of muscle per year from age 30. That's just kind of naturally, that will just happen anyway. And that doesn't sound like a lot, but it can lead to a fairly significant reduction in metabolism. So if you're thinking, between the ages of 30 and 60, if we've got 30 years between there, you may have lost 30% of your overall muscle mass between that period, which is going to be a third of the overall muscle mass that you have on your body, which is a huge amount. That makes a huge difference. And not only will that help, that's not going to help in terms of things like maintaining joint health and maintaining strength to just kind of do your everyday tasks, but it's obviously going to reduce your metabolism at the same time. So the average total skeletal muscle mass for women between the ages of 30 and 39 is about 21.6 kilograms. So if you lose about 1% of that per year, that's like losing about 0.2 kilograms of muscle per year. So what that can end up as is a 4 kilograms every single decade, or around about 10 pounds of muscle every single decade. And that additional 10 pounds of muscle is going to be enough to burn an additional 60 to 100 calories per day. So if you started with that much muscle at 30, once you get to 39, 40, you could be burning an additional 60 to 100 calories less per day. And that doesn't sound like a lot, but that could be the difference between gaining £1 a month. And if you add that up over a decade and you gain £1 a month for an entire decade, that's going to be about £1 a year. So over a year, for 10 years, that could be 10 stone in weight gained over a long period of time. So this kind of muscle mass related weight gain that can happen, it's not like a quick thing that you're going to suddenly see your weight piling up. What this is over time, your weight will just it'll sneak up on you. Gradually, your weight will increase. It will get higher and higher and higher every single year, just a couple of kilos a year and eventually you get to the point where suddenly you're quite a lot overweight and it's just kind of crept up on you over a longer period of time. So long duration cardio then is not necessary to see good results in terms of losing body fat. And if your aim is to lose body fat, to tone up, to look your best, to feel best in your clothes, it's not necessary to see good results. If you, though, want to do long duration cardio, if that's your main focus, so you want to run half marathons or do a cycle race or a run or something, or a hike or something like that, and you need to build that cardio for that sport specific activity, then you will need to do that long duration cardio. But I would say you want to keep that to a minimum, just to avoid those catabolic effects. Or if you are if you are going to train for running or something like that, make sure you're also adding in strength training to help preserve and maintain that muscle and build strength at the same time as doing the cardio. So it needs to be It needs to be balanced. But if your main focus is losing body fat, really just skip the cardio and instead just completely swap it for weights, because you'll get so much more benefit from the time that you spend doing that type of exercise.
Definitely. And the last thing I would say is, when it comes to increasing metabolism, I would strongly consider HRT if you're able to take it, but specifically testosterone, which a lot of people are not taking. They're usually taking estrogen, maybe progesterone, which is great and can counteract a lot of menopausal symptoms and side effects. Not necessarily all of them. You still need to improve diet and exercise and lifestyle. But testosterone is a really interesting hormone that a lot of people associate with men, but it can really benefit women too. And I'm going to get our in-house menopause expert, Catherine Gale. She's a clinician with over 30 years experience, runs a private clinic. She's going to come in and talk about this with me specifically soon, but just on a really high level, testosterone is a hormone that helps with building and maintaining muscle. Also helps with a lot of other things. So it helps with energy, mood, motivation. It's kind of that hormone that gives you drive. And a lot of people struggle with all those things around menopause, as well as that loss in muscle. And testosterone levels steadily drop in both men and women from the age of about 20 to 30. Between, in your mid-20s, you start losing testosterone. And this doesn't just affect men. I think it's talked a lot about with men, but not much about with women. But it can have a lot of negative side effects. So it can lead to low energy, low mood, low motivation, low libido. But it can also cause a loss of muscle and an increase of body fat. So it's a really, really beneficial hormone if you want to stay lean. Now, the NHS tends to not prescribe testosterone. They don't tend to prescribe it at all, as far as I'm aware, but private practices can, and you can get some real benefits from it. So many of our clients take it through the help of Catherine, our expert, or other private practices, and they get great results in terms of not just improved fat loss and motivation and muscle, but it affects everything. It can affect their sense of well-being. It can affect their mood as well. So it could be a really, really beneficial hormone. But when it comes to boosting metabolism, the key benefit is it's going to help you to build more muscle, and that will then boost your metabolism. And it will also help you to retain that muscle with age. And these tips we talked about today, so lifting weights for the afterburn effect, and then building more muscle to boost metabolism, prioritizing protein, eating enough calories, reducing or stopping long duration cardio, actually stopping in terms of what our clients do, and considering HRT. These are all things we work on as part of our private coaching with our clients. And they typically lose 1 to 2 stone every 12 weeks, 1 to 2 dress sizes every 12 weeks as well. So it's a really, really important thing to consider when you're trying to lose weight and tone up over 40. And I know we have loads of examples of this, but Ben, do you have an example you can share with the listeners of someone who's done all this, put it into practice, and seen an improvement in metabolism and results?
Yeah, so a great example here is from our client Becca Ford, who's 52 years old, and she said, "I work in a school as an office administrator and also run an online baking business. I've tried various diets over the years, but what was working for me 10 years ago or even 5 years ago wasn't giving me the same results anymore. I put it down to menopause mainly, and a change in my metabolism. I felt so disheartened, and that was just the way it was going to be. I'd have to accept that as we get older, we naturally gain weight, and that there was nothing I could do about it. Then I saw an advert which caught my eye. I hadn't seen anything before, which was specifically targeted towards the over 40s and those who are in their menopausal years. It was only when I started to do a little bit of research and saw the Trustpilot reviews that I became more intrigued, and even signed up to my first consultation call. I've tried various diets in the past, the most recent one being Slimming World about 5 years ago, but the weight just slowly piled back on. Over the last 8 weeks, I've lost 9.5 pounds, and I'm striving towards losing a stone by the end of the 12 weeks. I feel more confident, healthy, and generally more toned. I've dropped a dress size, and all my clothes are fitting me better. I've found my figure again. I've completely changed my eating habits through my journey with Trinity, and as a result of all my bad habits and old cravings have stopped. I've cut out lots of foods that weren't doing me any good at all and replaced them with foods that are nutritious, filling, and protein rich. The protein shakes packed with lots of fresh berries are a great stopgap if you're feeling a little peckish between meals. Do it, you won't regret it."
Amazing. And Ben, where can people go to find out more about getting results like this, like Becca achieved, and obviously like hundreds of other women have been achieving this year?
So to find out more about the program that Becca and thousands of other women have followed to see amazing results, head over to www.fit40info.com and you will find all of the details you need on that page.
Awesome. So that just about wraps up for today's podcast. Thank you so much for joining us. We'll catch you next time for another episode. We will see you then.